Now more on coronavirus. All eyes are on ICU capacities across the state as the number of confirmed cases remains elevated in Mississippi. Jade Biloxa spoke with the chief medical officer from St. Dominic Hospital about how this hospital is handling this critical situation.
And will tell us the current situation at St. Dominic's.
We're experiencing I guess a second surge, but fortunately in the last 7 to 10 days, our total numbers of admitted patients with COVID-19 diminished slightly. So we are managing as we did with the first surge. We're managing now, although our numbers now are higher than they were earlier in the pandemic. We have, about 56, 57 patients total. We've been as high as 70. About half of those today are in the intensive care unit and about half of those requiring mechanical ventilation. But we're managing these numbers, though some days are more difficult than others.
Okay, and you guys have a few ICU beds left. Where will patients go if you guys do run out of bed space?
Well, we, along with most other hospitals, occasionally do run out of ICU bed space. So it's not an uncommon situation for patients that arrive in the emergency department that are sick enough to require into the intensive care unit will be held in the emergency department and taken care of by either nurses or ED nurses, depending on the situation and the day. So that is rather common. There are occasional times that additionally we'll open up beds in the post-operative area, what we call PACU, or used to call the recovery room, that we can house 4, sometimes 8 patients there and staff with nurses that we typically have and pay overtime or premium pay. But those are the unusual times. Most of the time we can manage with the ED holds during the late night and early morning. Each morning we'll have 10 to 15% of our ICU patients being transferred out, so beds become available during the course of the day, moved into those beds. Usually by the end of the day, we have all patients bedded in an intensive care unit staffed by our regular staff.
Mm-hmm. So the numbers sort of fluctuate throughout the day. And can you kind of break it down for us, the number of patients you do have on ventilators?
I'd have to look at my morning report. My guess is that probably 12 or 13 are on ventilators. We've got 25 or so in the intensive care unit. So about half of our total COVID patients are in the intensive care unit, which is a little bit higher than we ran earlier in the pandemic. And the number of ventilated in the intensive care unit is running about 50%. And that too is slightly higher than we were running earlier in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. And tell us, what kind of shape is the hospital in when it comes to supplies like PPE? Well,
that's a good daily question because it is each day that we find out that shipment as promised is not coming, or occasionally we'll get an unexpected shipment from a previous order. So it's a day-by-day management issue that our supply chain director manages quite well. So we're not ever out of anything. We like to keep 30 to 60 days on hand where we have time to scramble if we need to seek other sources or ask for help from our corporate ministry in Baton Rouge, which occasionally runs into the same situations, but oftentimes is able to help us when we're in need.